Yesterday we saw that in this whole pursuit, um, spending time with yourself and resolving your own specific issues is a very important part. And meditation is the one which helps you to stay with and look into a little bit your own life. As I told you, that Karma Yoga will take care of fears which are related to what you're not following dharma. So that means every time you go against dharma, then the feedback that you get from the universe is guilt, fear of being caught. So that is one source of fear, but that is not the only source of fear. So that means that a lot of your fears may disappear as you begin to be much more aware of dharma, but there are not. It's not all inclusive. Why is it not all inclusive? Because as I told you in yesterday's example, if you have had experiences in your childhood, like how this woman, she was told by her maid that some ghost is going to come, that creates fear. It's not the result of not following dharma. Please understand that. It has some other sources. So therefore, by just living a life of karma yoga, these fears that you are carrying because of some other reasons, somebody else's behavior towards you, it's not going to disappear. So therefore, you require specific attention for those. So that's why this is where you bring back. And in fact, what will happen as a lot of people ask me these questions, so many things are lying in your, what we call, we are just kind of shoved so many things. And how do I even know what all is here to deal with? So therefore, one thing is very easy. You don't need to first try to look into all that is there in your whatever unresolved emotions. As you begin to live your life, situations will come where one aspect of those things will manifest. This is how Ishwara works. So when it manifests, it gives you an insight into, hey, this I'm not able to manage properly. That means I still have some work to do. If you have already done the work, when the challenges come, your capacity, you are still lucid. You are able to deal with it without getting burdened. If any situation that happens to you right now in your life which overwhelms you, that means that there are still unresolved issues. So that means as an adult or as a person who is able to, a person who is mature, you are able to handle every situation. You are able to move from what to so what. And so what doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean shoving it aside, but having a proper perspective. So therefore, that is the life itself is a lesson. It will make you. This is why Surya in today's meditation, he didn't talk about your past or anything like, oh, remember what happened to your childhood. He talked about, think about a recent event which ruffled you. Because in and through that recent event, it actually tells you your inability to deal with it means your job of having a mind which is lucid and is able to handle everything is not over. So that means you then have to look for its causes, and you also have to look for where this story is coming from. And as you begin to look into where this story is coming from, maybe you will be able to yourself trace it back to some past events which are kind of interfering in your assessing this situation appropriately and your ability to deal with it appropriately. So that means working on yourself is one of the most, sometimes it is difficult, but it is essential. It is not only essential for your final understanding of Vedanta, but if you have not dealt with this, you can't be comfortable with yourself. Whether you understand the reality or not, you really, one thing you certainly want in your life is to be comfortable with yourself. So therefore, this is emotional healing, emotional taking care of yourself is very essential, and meditation helps you to do it. Now, as I told you, how it's not just self-psychotherapy, it is involving Ishwara. That's why in the verse it was said, Mat asita mat paraha. Mat asita mat paraha means, mat means me, but Lord Krishna is not talking about me as a person, he's talking about me, he's referring to me as Ishwara. So therefore, he says that in that whole process of getting well, I means now, the next question is, who is this Ishwara that we keep talking about? You know, it's like talking about one given entity and never actually understanding what that entity is, and anything that happens you attribute it and okay, go there. So that's why Lord Krishna himself now begins to explain what Ishwara is. So the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are mostly concentrating on I, Tvampada. Tvampada means, who are you? So the second chapter was talking about the nature of I. Then it started talking about what the need for karma yoga to prepare yourself. Then Arjuna had yet another question, and then not only the universal aspect of dharma was emphasized, but also your duty, and that also shows how do you take this teaching. See, generally when somebody teaches you, all that is here is one non-dual self. If you are thinking on your own, what does it mean with reference to my daily life? You will imagine, oh, it means, oh, you know, I have to be loving towards everyone. And oh, I have to be forgiving towards everyone. Because we are all one. That is the normal thinking that you have. What Lord Krishna is saying is, the implication of that non-duality is not necessarily, oh, did he tell Arjuna that, oh, now everyone is one, Duryodhana is also same Atma as you, so now let's go home. Did he say that?
Give him the kingdom.
Yeah, it's okay, there's no problem. Everything is one. So that means we have to, this is where I was just telling Tobia, that every time a teacher says something, you create your own implication of what it means. And teacher has to tell you very specifically, this is not what it means. So that you stop your own imagination and you stay with the teaching. It's so easy to kind of just go and get derailed. And this is why the teacher, Lord Krishna, is a master teacher. After revealing the nature of Atma, he talks about, with reference to this situation, it doesn't mean you let him go because all are after all one. The decision making here, it involves consideration for dharma. Different criteria. So therefore, this dharma and different aspects of dharma, swadharma and samanya dharma, all that was discussed. Then what was discussed is the emotions that again you still need to take care of. Then the choice of lifestyle for pursuing this knowledge. What seems to be an easy lifestyle is not necessarily an easy lifestyle. So all this was with reference to you, the individual. Now the topic shifts a little bit and it talks about this entity in detail, Ishwara. What exactly is Ishwara? So, the next verses. Next verse is Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati sarva bhuta sthitam yo mam bhajantya ekatvamasthitaha sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. So, this is a beautiful verse which is now, there is yet another change of topic in the Gita, and the topic is Lord Krishna, he keeps using mam. Mam means me, but please understand, it's not like some Mr. Krishna that he is talking about, he is talking about Ishwara. So, Yomam pashyati sarvatra. Sarvam cha mai pashyati. Okay, so that means he says, though the presence. Now the question is, this Ishwara entity, where is it? This Ishwara that we are talking about, where is this Ishwara? Everywhere. Wonderful. That is really nice way to understand Ishwara, because very often people think of Ishwara as some entity away from you. So that's why even now I hear some people saying, oh, there is a higher force. Higher force means what? Separate from you. Object. See how many implications are there. We think that, oh yeah, it's all, we understand Vedanta, there's some higher force, but if you really begin to be a discerning human being, that has many implications which are not what Vedanta is talking about. That it is an object, higher force means you are the subject, and there is some which is an object, and you're separate from it, and then it will become one of the entities in the universe. Please understand. So therefore, we are not talking about some higher force or anything like that. The definition of Ishwara, understand, in Vedanta is Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman. What is Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman? It means that which is all knowledge and all power. What is this all knowledge and all power? Where do you see this all knowledge and all power? Here he says, what? Yoma pashyati sarvatra. You take any object in this universe. What you see is the object. Let's say you see the sun. But where there is sun, that's exactly where there is Ishwara. How? As we saw in our analysis of Mithya, that the sun is nothing but atoms, hydrogen atoms. But what arranges those hydrogen atoms? First of all, what brings about those hydrogen atoms? because it is from concept. How did these atoms come? So therefore, there is an intelligence which has the capacity to manifest the atoms. Not only it manifests the atoms, it organizes those hydrogen atoms. You try to organize hydrogen atoms and see how far you can go. The hydrogen atoms, in a way, and not only organize, but place them at the right distance from the earth, so that what? The hydrogen atoms convert into
fuse
helium.
into helium, and this gives energy.
Energy.
And not only that, every second it's 100,000 tons of the own mass of the sun, 100,000 tons, which is converted and released all over. And part of it is coming to Earth per second.
That's a big one.
Let's speak about power.
This is only a smaller sun.
And it is a small thought, exactly.
And then the whole universe is in a flux, and the galaxies are moving and everything is moving, but the distance between Earth and Sun remains constant. Because a little bit closer and there is what? No, the Earth is all burnt, and little bit farther we are frozen. So therefore, you can't just, it's not just some kind of it reduces it to concept, but how is it that from the concept this amazing creation comes? There is knowledge and then there is power. Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman. Knowledge, because you can't have an entity like sun. Can you create in our life, can you create this pot without knowledge of this pot? First having the knowledge of the pot. Neither, and only knowledge is not sufficient. You also then must have what? Power. Power to create it. And the material to create it. So that means, in order for, very good, any intelligent creation to happen, you need a few things, without which it's not possible. What? First, you need knowledge. Then you need power. Then you need the material. In order to make a creation simple as pot requires all of that. So now, if you are the creator of the whole universe, because no local person can say, I created the universe. Can you or I or him, can I say that I sat and prepared the stars and the sun and the moon and the galaxy? Certainly not. Neither you or anybody who is existing today, nor somebody who is what? Existing in the past. Your great-grandfather also didn't do it. And neither mine nor yours. So therefore, what? But you find yourself in this intelligent creation. Intelligent creation, the magnitude of intelligence is mind-boggling if you begin to think about it. So therefore, in order for any, so there is a logic which says, Ghata Karta Ghatanya. What is this logic? The creator of the pot must have knowledge of the pot. Sarvasya karta sarvajna. If somebody or if there is an entity which has created the whole universe, must have what? All knowledge. Sarvajna. Then the creator also must have what? The power, right? Not only the knowledge but also the capacity to create. So the person who makes the pot has what? The capacity to make the pot. If somebody has made the whole creation, then that must have what? All power. Sarvajnaha sarvashaktiman Ishwara. Now, where is this Sarvajnaha sarvashaktiman Ishwara? And with what material did he create this creation? These are still questions to be answered, right? So now we say that there is an entity which has all knowledge and all power, who has created this universe. Then you need to ask, what is the nature of this entity? Where is it? And what is the material that this entity used in order to create all these amazing things that I see? Two questions you need to ask and Vedanta needs to answer. So therefore, now the teaching starts with reference to what is Ishwara. This all knowledge and all power cannot be one entity in the universe. Why not? Because, understand, if it is one entity in the universe, then there is already time and space. And there are many entities, and then there is one entity which exists in time and space. We are talking about Ishwara, from where comes what? Time, space, and every object in the creation. Can it be one entity in the creation? Certainly not. Because one entity in the creation is created in time and space. We are talking about that entity which created time, space, and every other entity. Therefore, one thing is clear, we can't give location to Ishwara. We can't think of Ishwara as some big uncle. I have little knowledge and little power. That big uncle has big knowledge and big power. And that big uncle created this, and I'm constantly at the mercy of this big uncle. That vision of Ishwara is not adequate. Because why is it not adequate? Because it is contradicted by logic. So therefore, but you also can't deny the existence of the entity. Why? Because if you deny the existence of the entity, you have to then answer the question, how did this sun, moon, stars, galaxies, individuals, the aquatic creatures, the animals, birds, how did they come about? So therefore, you need to find another answer. You need to find another answer, and you need to say, that is what Lord Krishna is saying, not you need to say. Lord Krishna is revealing that this all knowledge and all power is everywhere. Oh, it's everywhere? But I don't see anything called all knowledge and all power. I only see what? People, I see mountains, I see rivers, I see planets, I see galaxies, I see stars. I don't see entity called all knowledge and all power. If you are saying it's everywhere, I should be able to see it. So this is where we have to re-look at something, the all-pervading presence that we have been missing in our life because it's not available for our perception as an object, because our eyes are designed in a way you can only see forms. So therefore, you need to use Shastra as a pramana to see what? The presence of Ishwara everywhere. How? As I tell you that this body, go back to this whole thing about the body. This body has some billions of cells, and within those cells every day there are some changing. It's not like same cells that you were born with are the same cells that you die with. Every 12 years, in fact, each cell is that you had 12 years ago is not there. So that means there are these billions of cells which not only they are in a flux, but they come and go in a way that they they organize themselves in a way that those cells, when organized in a particular way, they become one particular organ. What is that organ? Liver. When the cells organize in a different permutation and combination, it becomes what? Kidney. When the cells are organized in another combination, it becomes your intestine. So that means there is this intricate design which creates not only all the different organs, but each organ cannot work independently. It works in what? Harmony with every other organ. What intelligence! And not only this physical organs they work, while there is a constant change, it seems to be all stable. And they also kind of what you eat and all also provide nourishment to another, the brain cells are called neurons. They also have connection with your brain activity. And the neurons are organized with so many, as Surya was saying, chemical and electrical connections, which do this whole complex job of thinking. And the four functions that we are talking about: emotions, cognitive capacity, memory, eye sense. This is a mind-boggling creation. The mind-boggling intelligence which makes one entity in this universe. That is one of the manifestations of this all-knowledge and all-power. Then the other entity, same. Nobody has created that entity. Another manifestation of what? All-knowledge and all-power. Fish, another manifestation of all knowledge and all power. I had gone to Australia recently, and they had this whole museum. It was nice, aquarium, and they had all these fishes, and there were all these guys who were going and giving food to the fishes. So when they had to go inside the water, they were carrying what? Oxygen tanks. So they were wearing all these amazing waterproof outfits and then the oxygen tanks, and then they were going inside the water to feed the fish. Then I said, the fish is little like this. But in that fish's organization, she doesn't need an oxygen tank. She can nicely move around in the water. In that little body of hers is the entire system for her or him to survive in this water for such a long time. So that means that all knowledge and all power is making your body in a certain way And look at this, every human body has the same range, eyesight, hearing, the organs. But within that same range, there is infinite variety. No human being is exactly identical to the other. So that means the all knowledge and all power is not somewhere out there. It is right here. It's giving rise to my organs. It's making my organs do their job. It's making my mind do their job. It's also making the fish what it is. It is making the birds what they are. It's making the planets what they are. Flowers, fruits, insects. So Anna was telling us, what is this bee?
Yeah, the bees.
The bees. So can you tell us?
The bee dance or what?
Now the bee, the fact that if there are no bees in the country, the
Yeah.
country cannot survive.
Yeah, this is in Japan. The bees, they got ill. They have all kinds of illnesses, and they had the population raised to zero. And now the people buy pollen. They buy it in a shop, and then there are workers who go there and put the pollen on the flowers. Humans do it now, because they have no bees anymore in Japan. Sind ausgestorben.
Elektronische Bees? Japan elektronisch.
So that means that little bee that you think is insignificant is doing a job.
But Neema, the most important thing was that Albert Einstein, he said, when the bees have passed, 4 years more the human beings have.
It's already started.
So therefore, this is the arrangement, intricate arrangement. The bee that you think is such a nuisance when she comes and you are eating something, a nuisance is actually not a nuisance. It does a big job. And it itself has an intricate design and specific function. So therefore, please don't search for intelligence outside the creation. Every form in the creation is the manifestation of that intelligence. But if you try to see it with your eyes, you don't find what? The object called intelligence. That's why we keep missing it. You can live your whole life and you can say, oh, what Ishwara? Or think Ishwara is somewhere out there. Both. This is a work of ignorance. So this is...
The Buddhists, they say that the form is empty.
Yeah, so
But
we don't say
we don't-
form is empty.
No.
No.
It's,
So
it's
that
not.
means...
It's not like material, but it's also not empty at the same time.
Exactly. So wonderful. So that means in this analysis of Satya Mithya, let's go back to Satya Mithya and then say, let's take back the pot, right? The pot is nothing but clay. Clay is nothing but sand. Sand is nothing but molecules. Molecules is nothing but particles, atoms. Atoms are nothing but particles, right? And then provisionally, what did we say? That after that, things are not tangible. So it becomes a concept, right? Now, we need to refine it a little bit with this knowledge, and we need to say, from this concept, a non-entity, how did the first proton come? Or whatever, even if you've reduced it further, how did it come? Work of intelligence. But the work of intelligence doesn't only end there. From these protons, it organizes the particles, it organizes them further to make it what? Atoms. work of intelligence is on. And those atoms again get organized to become what? Molecules. Those molecules again organize to become sand. That sand again organizes to become clay. There is a work of intelligence all the way. It's not only from concept to that first manifestation. Even after the first manifestation, there is series of organization which leads to this particular object. Then, to make from clay to the pot, it doesn't get automatically made. It requires a human being. The human being itself is a work of intelligence. Because the same human being is also nothing but particles. And those particles are organized differently to become cells. And the cells are organized to become organs. And the organs are organized differently to become a human body. And human body has a brain which is differently evolved. The neurons work very smartly, which gives you the capacity to what? Imagine a pot from the clay. And then collapse that possibility and make from clay to the pot. Not only in the clay, what makes clay a clay, there is work of intelligence. What makes a human being which is able to convert from clay to the pot is also the same intelligence. The whole thing is nothing but this intelligence. The time and space in which the clay exists and the human being exists is also the work of intelligence. How is it that from this so-called concept that there is actually something intangible, the concept of time comes about and then it moves in a predictable fashion? So that means this intelligence is in each and every object of the universe. And it is also what? The cause of the manifestation of time and space. That is why he says, I am everywhere. Here he says, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra. The one who sees me everywhere. And Sarvatra Mai Pashyati. In everything I am there. Then Tasya na aham pranashyami. So that means now initially what happens is our life is so devoid of Ishwara. We live with our own arrogance and you begin to think I am the cause of things. And what is this entity? It's all belief. Then Lord Krishna says that means an all pervading entity doesn't exist for you. In fact, the speech with which you are saying, I don't believe in God, the speech itself is what? The work of the intelligence. The vocal cords, you didn't make them for sure. then somebody, I think, Utah was talking about guttural. Who was saying guttural? Somebody was saying a guttural. No, I think Martina was saying. Yeah, the guttural sounds. So that means, in order for speech to happen, there are so many laws of phonetics. Where does your tongue have to be to produce that sound? Intricate. That somebody has ears with which they can hear the sound that you're producing, your sounds of ignorance and arrogance. That is also work of Ishwara. The ability that the air carries the sound is able to travel, also work of Ishwara. Using everything which is nothing but manifestation of Ishwara. We with our great intellect, I don't believe in Ishwara, as though you are some great person. The height of arrogance. So therefore, here he says that I am the ability, the more and more you begin to see, you are not used to seeing the presence of Ishwara. And it's true in a way, because nobody explains to us what exactly Ishwara is. And you can't see it with your sense organs. That's the difficulty. You don't see an object called intelligence with your sense organs. And nobody is able to explain to us what it is. That's where this ignorance comes from. So don't blame yourself. So this is why you need the pramana. Pramana which reveals not only the nature of I, but also the nature of Ishwara. Because you have no other means through which you can know the presence, all-pervading presence of Ishwara. You have to be taught. And once you are taught, then Swamiji used to say, Ishwara is not a matter of belief, it's a matter of understanding. So it starts by saying, you start by, in our meditations, Swamiji used to say, first you need to bring in the understanding and presence of Ishvara in things which you are not used to. Right? You are not used to looking at everything as Ishvara. Nobody is used to. So first, where you are not used to, you have to bring in the presence of Ishvara, presence of Ishvara, presence of Ishvara. Then later on, he said, the contemplation becomes different. What? That let me find a place where there is no Ishvara. First is what? Let me try to see Ishvara in things. And later on, is there any place where Ishvara is not? Find a place.
Not even in thoughts. It's not possible to find a place where Ishvara is not.
Sorry?
The same in thoughts. Even in thoughts, you can't find a place where Ishvara is not.
Mentally.
Yeah. So
It's not important.
yeah. So that means that, see, all the thinking is done in your mind. So the thoughts, what we need to understand is the fact that your thinking has to evolve to the point. Every thought is every thinking is through the thoughts. There is no thinking which is outside thoughts, right? But previously the thoughts are of the nature that there is no Ishvara. Then the thoughts have changed to become what? The understanding has changed the quality of your thoughts. What? that all that is here is Ishwara. First, now there are 3 stages. The first is, I don't see Ishwara anywhere. The second is what? I begin to see Ishwara. I begin to bring in Ishwara. Then the third is what? I see the presence of Ishwara everywhere. There is nothing in which there is no Ishvara. And then finally, all that is here is Ishvara. There is nothing else other than Ishvara. This whole name, this whole entity is manifestation of intelligence. The possibilities of what this brain can do is manifestation of intelligence. That it has, the human mind is programmed in a way that it has free will is also the work of intelligence. When you collapse one of the possibilities, there is a corresponding result that is also manifestation of intelligence.
That means everything that is depending on Ishwara?
Super. So that means all the objects that are here, they ultimately, instead of this concept, what we have replaced is what? There is this all knowledge, all power, from which every object has come. Each one comes from Ishvara, each one is sustained by Ishvara, and everything goes back into Ishvara. That is the meaning. And this is the representation, right? So we are, somehow it's interesting that this Vedanta is not only a philosophy. It is a very, very sophisticated philosophy, but there is a culture which lives this philosophy. Whether people understand the meaning of the culture or not is a big question. But the fact is, the culture lives this philosophy. The intelligence, when it is seen from the standpoint of its capacity to create things, every second, a second is born, second is gone. Within that second, so many changes have taken place. The giving rise to new moments every second, that capacity of intelligence is named in a culture. What is it? Brahma. Then every moment there is not only creation, there is destruction. All knows it. Shiva. You name it. So that it's not just some vague thing. It is given a name so that you become alive to its presence. Capacity to destroy. Destruction. Can anybody stop it? Nobody has the power to stop one moment as it steal this, freeze this moment. Can you? Stop some cells of your body bleeding. Nobody has. Stop the sun from, the sun never sets, stop the earth from moving. Let's have only sunshine in Germany.
Nice.
In its snow. You have no capacity. Understand. The forces of destruction which destroyed the sunshine for you in Witzenhausen and will also bring it back sometime is part of a much bigger design. and there are causes for it. So therefore, this is called Shiva. And within this constant creation and destruction, there is a seeming stability. Vishnu. You name it so that you begin to see the magic of this creation. Ishwara doesn't remain some kind of a black hole entity where everything gets blindly attributed to. You have to begin to be alive to this magic. Swamiji used to say, you don't need any magician. This whole universe itself is the biggest magic. How? From these particles you come, make them through different permutation and combination, it becomes mountain, magic. Slightly different permutation combination of fish, oh, magic. Slightly different permutation combination, a dog, a cat, a lion. What a place. So therefore, and this is the all-pervading, and you name it. And this is why this naming helps you to relate to the world. This is why we don't create a distinction. Please understand, we don't create a distinction between material and spiritual. Because all that is here is Ishwara. Every form is a manifestation of Ishwara. Why are you naming it material and condemning it? You say I'm talking about oneness, then you talk about material and spiritual. Hey, that buddhi is a very primitive buddhi. You talk about one. After years of so-called spirituality, oh, I don't want to get involved in the material world. All that is here is Ishvara. If that is your vision, nothing poses a problem. So therefore, and then, not even resources like the wealth creates a problem. We have a beautiful name for it, Lakshmi. The resource that you get is a result of blessing. Ask how many people who have done startups, they all want to become a millionaire. But how many of them do? Many of them have to wind up. They all are smart people, they are not dumb. So that means, in addition to your effort, that is the forces at work. The forces are not random, they follow a certain cause and effect relationship. So Matthias, I'm tempted to tell you a story. Can I? It's a very interesting story that Matthias told me last evening. Last evening. It is very interesting. So Matthias said he's a physicist, and he was working in some solar energy startup company. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? He was working in some solar and energy startup company, and initially, in order to first start the company, they needed 11 partners, and there were only 10 partners. So they approached him, and they said, "Can you become the 11th partner?" So he, in fact, said, "No, no, 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 no." And then they somehow said, "Okay, now," they convinced him that, so he reluctantly became a partner in that company. And the thing was, initially he had to pay a certain amount. Then if the company survived for a kind of a length of time, then he had to pay some additional amount, and then, then if we did not survive, we'll get his money back. That was the arrangement. Now, what happened is that the company started and it started doing well, so there was a time for the second payment, right? It didn't close down, so there was a time for second payment. And when the time for second payment came, he chickened out for some reason or the other. And then he got his own initial investment back, and they found some other partner. That company went in to make millions. Decisions. What this is the decisions, this is why we chant Gayatri Mantra. Because so many things are unknown. You don't know. The same company could have also folded up. You don't know. So that's why what I say is you need some, in order to collapse those possibilities, that's why we are always prayerful.
So even reasoning won't take you
Absolutely.
anywhere because of the unknown.
So that means,
factors.
absolutely. So that means, see, that doesn't mean you don't apply your reasoning. You help yourself. This is what we call working with Ishwara. You help yourself by reasoning. What happens, unfortunately, is people just attribute everything. Oh, everything is Ishwara. Ishwara will do everything. That's not what it is. That your capacity to decide is also from Ishwara. And that you make intelligent choices is a possibility that is given to you, and you have to collapse that possibility. But you also have to recognize that even if I collapse that possibility, there are too many unknown factors which I have no control over. And then you have to help yourself with reference to those unknown variables. The only thing that you can do with reference to unknown variables is what? Pray. With known variables, you can make your efforts. But the unknown variable, how are you going to do? You will feel always helpless with reference to unknown variables. And that helplessness you have to convert into something proactive.
And prayer in that sense is proactive.
Exactly. Prayer in that sense is proactive. Because you are acting on it and you are asking for help. So that means your life becomes always proactive. The more and more you become proactive, this helplessness of jiva begins to disappear. So therefore, one decision, he would have been a millionaire, we would have been sitting in his villa. See the consequences.
He would have been in Vedanta
Yeah.
then.
No, but then there was a twist, no?
Yeah, now then it becomes too long a
Then there is a second episode,
that you will hear from him.
and which is beautiful.
But it was really striking the way he told the story. I really enjoyed the story. So therefore, this is how life is all about. Take help. There is Ishwara's grace. Grace is not something which is kind of, there is no entity who is throwing randomly grace or anything. The result of the action, the Sanskrit name for result of the action is what? Karma phala. Karma phala means the result of the action. Every action can have what? Either a good result or not so good result, depending upon what? The nature of the action, right? If I abuse somebody, then it will bring me undesirable result. And if I help somebody, it will give me desirable result. So karma phala can be of two types. One is desirable, the other one is undesirable. But the prayer, the result of prayer is not called karma phala. It is called grace. Why? Can you have a negative outcome? Only positive. Ask for help. Help me with this. So, grace is an outcome. It's a phala, the result, for what? An act of prayer. An act of prayer is born of your free will. Nobody asks you to pray. You have to decide to pray. And you can only pray if you understand what? The nature of Ishwara. So that means before you begin to pray, you have to mature. So therefore, the grace is earned. And the action which earns the grace is the prayer.
There's a very beautiful story about the guy who wants to win the lottery and he prays to Ishwara. Please God, I want it so much, please help me. And then finally Ishwara gets so fed up with this guy and says, why don't you come halfway and buy a lottery ticket? But this kind of praying and acting,
Yes.
being proactive.
Exactly. So that means with reference to known variable, you have to act. And you have to act, you have to first identify what is needed for me to get that. And you have to really act. And for the unknown variables, you can't just make everything only a prayer.
There's also this other story with the two boys which are going from one city to the another and coming to a temple.
Yes.
This is, you can also,
Yeah,
it's good.
that's an interesting story. That's an interesting story our teacher used to tell. And that is that there were two boys and they were going from one village to the other. And while walking, they were having this is a story, right? So please take it as not some big philosophy. So, while they were walking, they were having a discussion. And one said, I really am very connected. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to go to this other town, and I see it's so lovely that we are going and we are enjoying, and it's all grace of Ishwara. The other boy said, what nonsense is this? This is a talk of some irrational, some kind of this romantic idea, it's all grace of Ishwara. We decide and we go. What's the big deal? Where is Ishwara here? It's only me and my decisions and the outcomes, and where is this entity called Ishwara? I don't believe in this entity called Ishwara at all. And it's only for weak people who don't want to make an effort, and they just want to kind of think that some external force will take care of everything. So therefore, these people who believe in Ishvara are weak people. Now, this little boy, he didn't expect such an attack. So he didn't know quite also how to answer this other boy. Because he was not a Vedantin yet. So he didn't know how to answer that. So then they were walking, and then came this temple. And this boy nonetheless said, I want to just go and do my pranams at this temple. So the other boy said, okay, if you want to go, you can go. I'm not interested, and I'm just waiting for you here. Then this boy goes inside the temple, and as he comes out, there was a scorpion, and the boy is beaten by the scorpion. And the guy, who was this so-called atheist, he was waiting outside, and while he was waiting outside, he saw something shining, and he just went and little bit and he got a silver coin. Now, as the boy was in pain and he was beaten by the scorpion and all that, now this guy who was so-called atheist got further chance to what? Make fun of him. Look what your Ishwara gave you. You went to the temple and your Ishwara gave you a scorpion bite. And I relied on my own, and see what I got. I got a silver coin. So, I'm telling you, give up all these funny ideas of Ishwara. The boy also himself was a little bit puzzled. So he says, yeah, but how do I explain that? Maybe it is true that there is no Ishwara. And maybe Ishwara is just kind of, I don't know, punishing me for something and, whatever. So then comes a wise person. And they both go to this wise person. And they explain the situation, and then they said, okay now, so who is right? Tell us. So the wise person says, yeah, the person who says there is Ishwara is right. What? How is it possible? Because the person who believes Ishwara got a scorpion bite and the person who doesn't believe in Ishwara got a silver coin, and you are still saying the person who believes in, says there is Ishwara is right? How? So this wise person says, now this is a story, right? The wise person, no, I'm not looking at you, just one it's my habit of looking. Not for any specific reason. So, it says, this person who got a scorpion bite was actually going to die with an accident. So by going to the temple, what did he do? He mitigated the effect. So it may seem as though he got a scorpion bite, but it's as a result of the prayer, the result that he was going to get got what? Much more reduced. Something which was going to be a big disaster was avoided through what? A scorpion bite. The other person was going to get what? A big fortune. And missed the chance. Because God, no, I'm not looking at you. But because of the arrogance, is only getting a silver coin. So that means what? This is how things are. What may seem to you, this is why the perception, the world of perception with limited information it makes us make so many wrong conclusions. But the work of ignorance is such that we still think that we are great. We don't recognize the inherent limitation as a human being in our ability to influence every outcome. And not only that, our possibilities of making choices and also engaging in the world are also work of that intelligence. You are pervaded by that intelligence. So therefore, where there is Jiva, that's exactly where there is Ishwara. This is why we say that because you have ignorance, you are unable to see the presence of Ishwara. So all you need to do is to what? Remove your ignorance so you can see the all-pervading presence of Ishvara which is already there. When you begin to see the all-pervading presence of Ishvara which is everywhere, then the next step of equation, which is what you and Ishvara are one, will begin to be clear to you.
So I could say Shan is Ishwara in action.
Shan is one of the manifestation of Ishvara.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is why people ask me, why do you put tika? Is the tika, when I went to the US to study, I had no idea why people put tika. So I just said, yeah, married women wear tika. I had no clue why people put tika. Until I met Swamiji. And Swamiji explained to me that every day you put tika on yourself to remind you that you are manifestation of Ishvara. Just as you look at the deity, you see how they put tika, they put kumkum, they put chandan. So not only you put it there, you also put it here to remind you that that Ishvara is not some entity outside, you are one of the manifestations of that same Ishvara, which is all-pervading. Imagine what will happen to your self-esteem if every day you remind yourself that I am manifestation, one of the manifestations of this all-pervading Ishvara. So this is, now I've gone over time. Just last thing, that once one of the South Indian men, he came to my class and he was looking at me like this. And then when I explained that all that is here is Ishvara, so then he tells me, oh, from today onwards I have to be really responsible because I'm a manifestation of Ishvara. So that means this is how it is. Now, the Lord Krishna has a lot more to talk about Ishvara. Let's see how it starts. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti.